I worked as a helper, so I had to stand all day long. I couldn't even stand on my feet.
If the ID card states you are 18 years old, they will employ you, whoever you are.
With almost half the population in Myanmar now living below the poverty line, more parents are sending their kids to work. And labour activists say Yangon factory bosses are taking advantage of that, with laws meant to protect the children being ignored. Hello and welcome to Do'athan, a weekly podcast about human rights stories from Myanmar. It's brought to you by Frontier Myanmar. This episode is produced by a Frontier Myanmar journalist. Names and voices may have been changed to protect contributors.
The factory work started at 7:30 a.m., so I woke up at 6 a.m. My grandma prepared a lunchbox for me. I worked as a helper, so I had to stand all day long. I couldn't even stand on my feet. I couldn't work for 1 or 2 weeks as my legs swelled up. But then I applied ointment and came to work.
Chit Chit started working at a Yangon garment factory 2 years ago at the age of 14. She wasn't prepared for the hard work and long hours. Helpers there were apparently not allowed to sit down. They had to be ready to go to any part of the factory floor to assist workers. She had to leave school to support the family after her father died. Her mother has diabetes and can no longer work, and she had to support her grandparents and younger sister. Now her sister is 14 and following in her footsteps. A few months ago, she started working at another factory, partly to help pay for medical treatment for their grandmother, who has blocked arteries.
We wanted her to work only after she finished school, but she said she didn't want to go to school because grandma was not feeling well. She works at a local factory, although she hasn't reached the working age. We knew the manager a bit, and she got a job because of that. The manager knew she was under the working age.
In fact, according to Myanmar labour law, children are allowed to work from the age of 14, but only under certain conditions. For example, working only 4 hours a day, with no night work, and not in hazardous conditions. Ma-ee is a spokesperson of the Federation of General Workers Myanmar, or FGWM. She says there are other provisions in the law that are supposed to protect children, but she says these days employers are ignoring the law. For example, they're employing young people with fake ID cards or student cards.
The factories are required to get the parents' permission, recommendation from a certified doctor, and certificate of fitness for work to employ workers between the ages of 14 to 18. Now it's different. They need no recommendation. If the ID card states you are 18 years old, they will employ you, whoever you are.
And the reason they'll employ anyone now is they have a huge labour shortage after the conscription law was enforced in February. Another labour activist, Manila, has witnessed the exodus of factory workers.
They don't want to serve in the military, so some workers are returning to their hometowns and some are leaving for other countries they can get to. According to the employers and the workers' unions, about 1/3 of workers in every factory have left their jobs. Almost every factory is hiring new employees.
The ready job opportunities amid an economic slump are encouraging some parents to send even younger children to work. Go Tun Sway works in the ironing section of a garment factory.
Parents don't send their 12 or 13-year-old children to school if they're quite tall. They make the children learn to sew, hoping to get them jobs at factories through their contacts. They use fake IDs. In the morning, while waiting for my ferry at the bus stop, I see many underage workers. Other factories are hiring many child workers too. There are around 60 or 70 child workers in my factory.
That's a high figure, but not unlikely. The FGWM has carried out surveys in recent years. From 13 Yangon factories surveyed after the conscription law was enforced, the number of child workers had risen by about 100 since the end of 2023 to 380. To attract skilled workers, factories have also increased daily wages for adults, sometimes paying a daily rate of 5,800 kyat or even more. But child workers are not getting this amount, nor the same kind of benefits. Mai from FGWM says sadly child workers are also treated more harshly than adults, partly because they don't dare to stand up for themselves.
These children need their jobs to support their families, so in the workplace they will do whatever they are told. When the children bite off more than they can chew, workplace injuries often occur. So the children don't take lunch breaks or toilet breaks. They work continuously. They work overtime. Then they get injuries, such as their hands being caught in machinery.
Manila had to help a 17-year-old boy whose hand was crushed in just such an accident earlier this year. The employer didn't fully cover the medical expenses for the operation the boy needed on 3 fingers. He'd been working through the night.
Their work started at 6 p.m. and continued until dawn the next morning. They didn't work during the daytime. They worked while other people were sleeping. That's why the child dozed off and his fingers got caught.
Manila reported the incident to the Factories and General Labour Law Inspection Department, but she doesn't know if any action has been taken. There are few people like Manila and Mai around these days. Most unions and labour groups have disappeared in the face of a crackdown on civil liberties by the military regime. At least 157 labour activists have been arrested and jailed, according to the Confederation of Trade Unions, Myanmar. So the increasing number of child workers have fewer people to speak up for them. And most of the children have no idea how to get help over exploitation or injuries. Go Maung, a labour rights observer, insists that not only unions but also international labour organisations need to address this issue of child workers in the factories.
The report mechanism is not widely known. As far as I know, there are child labour elimination projects implemented by the ILO and others, but there are more cases of forced labour, according to the ILO reports from Myanmar. Very few child workers know the report mechanism or know how to get in touch with labour unions or people with legal knowledge. The rest just don't know about it.
Even when children do report problems to labour activists, there's no easy solution. Mai says they're mainly just documenting the situation at the moment.
We have kept records. We don't publish them. If we did, the workers in the workplace could get fired. What we want is to have suitable work assigned to the child workers. But we don't publish this officially because we fear that the child workers might get unfairly dismissed.
Children have the right to be protected from violence, exploitation, abuse and neglect. That's enshrined in the Convention on the Rights of the Child, to which Myanmar is a signatory. But this right is not available to many children in the current political and economic circumstances in Myanmar. Chit Chit's job was terminated at the end of last year, along with the jobs of about 50 other child workers. They were given no compensation. She said that the employer threatened to take action if they reported this.
The manager sent for us and told us that they were guilty for employing us, and our parents were guilty as well because they asked for it. If something happened, our parents could be sued and sentenced to prison.
Now Chit Chit is working at another garment factory. She doesn't like the work. She says the supervisors insult and swear at her. One day she hopes to be able to open a beauty salon. But as she needs to work to support her family now, she's accepted she'll probably be at the factory for a while yet.
Well, it's a tiring job. My grandma told me that I had to bear with their talk as I was a person in need and not a fast worker. Sometimes I feel sad, but I don't tell my family about it.
Thanks for listening to this edition of Doathan. We'd welcome your feedback on social media. This project on human rights reporting is supported by Fondation Hirondelle with the help of our donors. You can listen to our podcasts via the Doathan Facebook page. They can also be found on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify and Telegram. You can also listen every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. and Sunday morning from 6 to 7 a.m. on the Voice of America Radio. Please tune in again next week.